Hello, friends. I am Shelley Clough, and we have made it to day 12 of 12 days of watercolor Christmas cards. I am so grateful to all of you who have been doing this with me, and it has been so fun to hear about your projects. But I wanted to do a nativity for this series, and when I tell you this required a lot of prototyping, just believe it. It took a lot of effort to find a design that was going to sort of capture what I was going for, but was going to be easy enough for beginners to do, and that I could break down into simple enough steps to be able to share it all with you. So this is the design I've come up with, and we are going to walk through how to do this design. So the one change in this card versus other ones is that normally for my card paper, I'm using Canson XL watercolor paper, which is like a student grade paper, a great one, but it's still student grade. So for this card, I'm switching to Arches paper. I just use this 10 by 14 inch block so that I can cut each page in half and then make two cards out of each page. And I'm using Arches because it just has higher absorbency, which is going to make it a lot easier to do this wash of a background. So that is why I'm using that, and I'll link below the pad that I'm using if that's helpful. So I'm just going to go ahead and tape my paper to my surface. Okay, so my paper is all taped down. This is not really creating nice edges. It's just holding my paper in place and making sure my edges don't curl up while I'm working. For a brush, I'm using my size 10 Princeton Neptune. These brushes hold lots of water, so they are great for a big wash. And I wanted a larger brush to cover that area. And then I'm using this as my starter palette. You can find a swatch card of it linked in the description box if you're curious. And I'm going to start with a mix of indigo and Prussian blue. This is sort of a really pretty, midnight sky blue kind of color. The indigo can be kind of moody and deepen it up, and the Prussian kind of adds a little bit of vibrancy to it still. So I'm just sort of tinkering with those two until I have a color I like, and I want it to be pretty concentrated. And then what I'm going to do is create a gradient. I'm going to start at the top and then wash that color out as I work my way down. So, and then again, kind of like the tree tutorial you saw the other day, we're going to make these nice loose edges. So we're not going to worry about perfectly clean lines. If you want to, you can just tape your edges to have clean lines, and then you can just have a straight edge card. But I like not worrying about that. So I'm going to lay down some of this color, maybe even an inch or so from the top. I'm going to start. And then just sort of start sweeping that back and forth, dipping my brush in the water here and there to help water it down. I'm actually going to rinse my brush and wet it so that it's really starting to pull the pigment down. And then I want to continue. I want to make sure that the tone stays blue, but that washes out quite light by the end. I'm just going to take a little more pigment here, kind of drop it in here and there. And then carry that last little bit down to the bottom here. Okay, and then I just want it to be about equidistant on top and bottom. Again, I like it when there's a little bit of dimension as that gradient comes down. So just tapping a little extra color in there. And I'm gonna increase this a little bit on top. Okay, and I'm just sort of tinkering with these edges, making them sort of loose and playful. And then I'm just taking a clean brush and sort of working it into there as well, like zigzagging a little bit to lift some color here and there. Just like it to be a nice textured background. Okay, now while it's still wet, here's where the magic happens. I'm going to take my clean brush. I've rinsed it really well, and I'm going to make like a plus sign. I'm like dropping clean water in here, and I'm making a plus sign here on top in the middle. This is going to be the beginning of our star. And then I'm just going to drop a couple drops in the middle of that so that it starts to diffuse outward. And then I'm going to wipe my brush off, and then I've dabbed my brush on the paper towel, And I'm going to come all the way down. So I want to start capturing that like pillar of light feeling to come down here. Want that coming all the way down like that. Okay, and then you can see I've created really slight angles. I made it a little wider up on top, and then it gets thinner as it comes down, just to help it look more like a star. And do the same thing on the other side. I'm just going to kind of angle that outward a little bit and just wiping off my brush periodically so that I'm not putting more pigment down as I'm trying to lift. Okay. Now that's pretty good. Now I'm just going to do a little bit more. I just want little lines, kind of a little X mark in the middle here to help it look a little more star-shaped, but you want those to be pretty little. And I'm just going to match this up. It's a little wider on this side, so I'm just going to match it up. Okay. I think we are getting there. All right, now I'm going to let that dry completely, and then we are going to paint our little nativity scene down here. Okay, so now this is dry, and I'm going to go in with a little brush this time. This is my size 4 Da Vinci brush. And again, any tools I use, I link down below. And I'm going to go into Payne's Gray and get a pretty concentrated amount of that color, because I want it to be like a silhouette against this sky. So I want it to look pretty much black. And this part, we're going to try to do a few simple strokes and make it look like a nativity. So we're going to start with the top of our roof, and we're just going to center the point of it in this pillar of light that's coming down. So we're going to come and bring one side down like this, and I like to make those lines super skinny. Okay. And then I'm going to do a little flick down on this side and a matching one on this side. So see how when they kind of have like breaks and variation in them, it makes it look purposeful when it's imperfect. Okay, and then we're going to make our little manger. So for our manger, we are going to kind of be centered here under the peak of our roof, and we're going to make little zigzags, almost like a skirt that comes out like that. Okay. And then if you want to, you can do a little circle and a little oval to kind of give the impression of the baby in the manger. Okay, and then we're going to do like an A-frame shape underneath. So that is our manger. Okay, and then for our people, now human figures are notoriously tricky. So this was one of the hardest parts, was finding a way to help you guys create people figures. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do like a little circle, and then kind of an angled triangle. So we're going to come out like this, and then out like this, and then just sort of make little strokes downward. So it doesn't need a clean end on it, if that makes sense. So it doesn't need to be a crisp line. It's kind of keeping that loose artistic vibe. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Make a little circle. And then we're going to do a line kind of angling this way, and then one angling that way, and then make those little strokes downward. Okay, there is our nativity scene. Now we have a few options. You can leave it like this if you want. On my sample piece here, I added some little stars in white that I wanted to keep it kind of subtle. So I'll show you how to do that. I feel like some other options, you could maybe paint a little gold star right here. That could be really pretty. But I wanted to sort of keep the attention on the nativity and not make the sky too distracting. So I'm just going to use a pen. This is a jelly roll pen that does a good job of showing white over watercolor. And so what I'm going to do is make a little kind of diamond shape in the middle of this lightened area, and then little lines coming out of it. And then you can sort of amplify that if you want. And it's subtle, okay? You can hardly see it, but it is there. And then around here, I wanted to add kind of the feel of a sparkling night sky. So I'm just doing a little dot and then these kind of lines coming out of it. 4 longer lines, and then in more of an X shape, 4 little lines. And I'm just doing a few of those kind of staggered around, and a variety of sizes of those. All right, I think that's all it needs. So that is our cute little nativity scene. Now I'm going to take off the tape and then we'll add our stamp on the back. Okay, so I'm just going to flip that over, and then I have my stamp here, handmade by Shelley Clough Art. Totally extra, but I love it. And I'm just going to stamp that onto the back. And I have a custom stamp linked below if you want to order one of your own. There's also a template down there if you want to just plug your name into a little design like this. I made a template. So there it is. Okay, there is our nativity card that brings to a close our 12 days of watercolor Christmas cards. I have had so much fun making these cards with you. I have loved reading all your comments about your own creations. Thank you for painting along with me. I hope you subscribe to the channel, and we will see you all in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.